My lords, today I bring more news about the imminent arrival of the Grand Archive. I'm going to cover the Vivarium and the Hatcheries, the changes to spaceborne fauna, and all the wonderful things that we'll be able to do to them, the Domestication Tradition, and finally the Beastmaster Civics. But I will drop this in for you now. With Grand Archive, we will be able to design our own space fauna. We will be able to add organic weapons and various technologies to them. The dream of a militarized space amoeba fleet will finally be realized. However, to deviate slightly, a very key piece of information was dropped in this dev diary. The devs do not consider the space fauna breeding system to be the same as bio ships. They even go as far to state that this will be explored one day in the future. Take from that what you will, but I see that as bio ships is on the horizon. Anyway, let's get into the Grand Archive updates. We start with the Vivarium and the Hatcheries. The Vivarium is essentially a space fauna breeding and observation tank. We can access it under the Discoveries tab as soon as a Vivarium capacity is above 0 or the gravity snares technology has been researched. The Hatchery module is the space fauna equivalent of shipyards and can only be built on a station that has no normal shipyards. It's unlocked by the artificial breeding technology. So it would appear that we can acquire genetic material from culling space fauna that we find in the galaxy, and use this genetic material to grow more space fauna via the artificial breeding modules that we can build on starbases, thus creating a fleet of organic creatures. As far as I understand it at this stage, we can also acquire genetic material from culling the space fauna that we keep in our Vivarium. I do wonder how xenophilic and pacifistic empires would feel about this. Furthermore, we can build external Vivarium tanks on our starbases. These increase the maximum Vivarium capacity and the growth rate of docked fauna. They are unlocked by the gravity snares technology, but building a Grand Archive will give a far bigger boost to Vivarium capacity. We can see via the image what an empty Vivarium looks like, and obviously we want to fill it up. To do this, we need the gravity snare technology. Gravity snares allow our science ships to attempt to capture wild space fauna, and I must say they look awfully similar to a certain red and white ball one may throw at an electric mouse. I'm sure it's entirely coincidental. Anyway, gravity snares are projectiles that can safely capture and transport space fauna to a vivarium. Once in the vivarium, the space fauna can continue to reproduce new specimens of their kind. Culling and dissecting the creatures will allow the harvesting of genetic material for cloning purposes, as well as other resources. Gravity snares are launched from an adjacent system in the attempt to capture the wild space fauna, but we will need to know the basics about the creature we're trying to capture in order to tune the gravity snare appropriately. This means that we have to finish the first contact process before we can attempt to capture them. There is a cost and cooldown to capture attempts, but as we unlock various technologies, the capture chance and the number of attempts we can make will increase. Other technologies such as cloaking or jump drives will also improve gravity snares. Cloaking will improve the capture rate, while jump drives will allow the gravity snares to instantly send our new friends to the vivarium, instead of transporting them through the darkness of space. Once we've captured our first space fauna, we'll find that it's possible to clone more of the creatures with proper scientific investment. Space fauna have different growth stages and breeding requirements that vary by species. Tianki, for example, require a mating partner, whereas crystals and amoebas can reproduce asexually. Void worms are special, and we'll find out more about them next week. In order to breed a Tianki, we will need 2. Now we could fly around and try to find another one, or we could bring them to us with a void lure. Void lures are new starbase buildings which are unlocked by completing the Domestication Traditions, and they attract a specific species of space fauna. Void lures will transmit signals into deep space that are capable of attracting these various types of fauna. Further to this, they must be built in their favoured habitat. All of the space fauna have their own preferences for habitat. Space amoebas like nebulas, pristine entities like pulsars, and so on. Every month there's a chance that any captive fauna that can breed will do so. This will put them on a cooldown before they can reproduce again, and this is visible under their reproductive status. Culling space fauna will provide resources, which will vary depending on the species, as well as their genetic material. Having a creature's genetic material will allow us to grow clones of it via the hatchery. Exceptional creatures, which are marked by their rarity, will have increased combat stats and culling rewards. Cloned space fauna will always use the highest rarity available, and we can upgrade existing fleets as we acquire better rarity. Cloned fauna will initially be produced at their smallest size, but they will grow over time, and there are technologies that can be perfected that will allow larger growth states from birth. Larger space fauna will take up more naval capacity, and there are times where we may want to prevent their growth. We can prevent space fauna from exceeding the command limit of a fleet by changing their growth stance, but we can also block them from exceeding the overall naval capacity in policies via the space fauna growth policy. There is also, somewhat amusingly, an auto-cull feature, allowing automation to take over the grisly task of preventing overpopulation of our space fauna friends. Culling the creatures will provide genetic material and resource. In the case of Tianqi, we'll get food. Now we move on to some very exciting stuff: unnatural selection and controlled mutation. The controlled mutation technology lets us make some changes to the fauna that we have captured when we're creating clones. This lets us use a variant of the ship designer to redesign them and make use of special mutation component slots. Mutations can be broadly classified as offensive, defensive, or special, but we can freely use the slots however you want to, just like you would when designing a ship. We can also alter the fauna's behavior in a similar way to combat computers by installing neurochips. And it would seem that we have access to a large number of differing mutations, effectively giving us organic, customizable ship sets. Some of the examples listed include red eye beams, where the lenses of the creature's eyes are enhanced to project high-intensity red laser beams. Further modification of the genome triggers the spontaneous growth of additional eyes. Other mutations include the Shard Accelerator, the Barbed Batteries, the Sentinel Splinter Gun, Enhanced Flagella, and the Energy Epidermis, which one would assume is shields. Just like the starships, the different space fauna have different resource cost and upkeep, and these upkeep costs are reduced if they're in their preferred habitats. Further to this, we will also be able to create designs for what our fauna will grow into, if we allow them to. We'll be able to change the current growth stage by clicking on the Pick Creature Size. And I feel it would be quite wonderful to see our fleet of Tianqi calves mature into Tianqi bulls, and perhaps even matriarchs. Now we move on to the domestication tradition. As we expected, domestication is focused on improving your space fauna, and we have very generously been shown all of the different traits. In summary, the domestication tradition tree will increase farmer output by 20% and reduce space fauna ownership cloning cost by 10%. Space fauna ship experience will increase by 50%. Vivarium capacity and capture chance will increase. We will also gain a greater chance of capturing higher rarity space fauna. It will increase the chance of breeding for all space fauna and increase the clone culling rewards by 25%. The resource from the job zookeeper will increase by 50%. Defeated space fauna will leave behind a debris that we can research to recover some of their cost. We will gain 250 food when clearing organic blockers, and blocker clearing speed will increase as well. Pop growth speed and space fauna ship cloning speed will increase by 5 and 15% respectively. And finally, space fauna ship damage will increase by 15%, and ship sublight speed will also increase by 15%. I do wonder how a tradition like this is going to pair with cordyceptic drones. We may have an extremely powerful organic fleet build on our hands. And the final topic to address is the Beastmaster variant Civics. Beastmasters replace their hatcheries and shipyards with dual-use beast ports. These can clone space fauna just like a hatchery, but also have a rudimentary shipbuilding capability, and are able to build civilian vessels. This is so you don't need to keep a shipyard around just for your colony, construction and science ships. The focus of these civics are clearly to capture, breed and mutate space fauna. Empires taking these civics will start with the gravity snare and artificial breeding technologies, as well as common space amoeba genetic materials. They will, however, suffer an increase of 200% cost regarding artificial naval cap, and finally will unlock a leader called the Beast Lord. This position will increase fauna sublight speed by 2% and ship damage by 3% per skill level. Megacorps, hives and machines will all get access to the same variant of the Civic, and as stated, I imagine that there will be some extremely strong hive mind builds with this expansion. That brings this news segment to a close. What about the Grand Archive excites you the most? Please let me know in the comments, and if you want to hear more from me, please click the video on screen now.